Hey everybody, Brian Deckard here from Deckard Company, and in today's episode of Business Focus Friday, what are we going to talk about? So, in our digital pulse, we're talking about Google is cracking down on reviews and what you need to know about that. In our tips and tricks, we're going to talk about why every business needs a good website. And then in our interview, we get to talk to Barbara DiLisio from Wicky. And we're going to be discussing what branding is all about. So, business branding. That's pretty important. So, without further ado, and before we get into the episode, if you haven't yet done so, please consider subscribing to our channel. It's free, doesn't cost you a thing, but it does help a small business out like ours. So we're hoping that you'll take this time and hit that subscribe button so that you get those notifications when we post new content to our YouTube channel. So with all that said, well, let's get into this new episode right now. Hey y'all, welcome to this week's Digital Pulse, where we're talking about the Google review crackdown. Yeah. All right, so let's jump into this week's Digital Pulse, where we talk about what's happening right now in the world of digital marketing. Yeah. So if you've logged in to your Google business profile recently and noticed, hey, wait a minute, there's some reviews suddenly missing. Don't panic. You're definitely not the only one. Businesses all over the place have been reporting the same thing. Google has recently stepped up their enforcement of their review policies, and as a result, a lot of reviews have been removed. So what's going on? So Google is specifically cracking down on unusual spikes in review activity and incentivized reviews. For example, if a business normally gets one or two reviews per month, um, and suddenly 40 or 50 show up over a single weekend, that's going to trigger Google's little red flag warnings, right? Yeah, it sure is. It sure is. The same thing goes for offering incentives, things like discounts, gift cards, free products in exchange for a 5-star review are now firmly on Google's do not do list. So if you're doing it, you better stop. What Google is trying to do here is pretty simple. They want reviews to be authentic and organic, not something that looks manipulated or manufactured. Now, the good news is there are still smart ways to build reviews that keep you on the right side of Google's policies, and that's where we want to be. First, focus on consistency. Google tends to care a lot about recent reviews, especially those from the past 90 days. You could have hundreds of reviews from years ago, but if nothing new has come in recently, it doesn't carry the same weight. A good goal for most small businesses is to try to generate about one new review per week. That steady activity signals to Google that your business is active and serving customers or clients. Second, encourage customers to be descriptive when they leave a review. When people naturally talk about their experience, what service they received, where the business is located, or what stood out, that actually helps your search visibility. Those reviews often contain keywords that reinforce what your business does. And if customers add photos along with those reviews, that's even better. Yeah. And finally, automation can be your best friend. Instead of trying to remember to ask every customer for a review or sending manual messages, you can use automated review request systems. There's nothing wrong with that. They're just a little pricey. These send friendly reminders after a service or a purchase, making it easy for happy customers to leave feedback without putting pressure on anyone. So at the end of the day, Google isn't trying to punish legitimate businesses. What they're really trying to do is eliminate review manipulation. If you focus on steady growth, authentic customer feedback, and making the process easy, you'll stay well within those Google guidelines. And remember, reviews are still one of the most powerful ranking signals for Google Maps and local search. But the strategy needs to be smart, consistent, and sustainable. All right, that's this week's Digital Pulse. Thanks so much. Hey everyone, welcome to Tips and Tricks and Why Every Business Needs a Website. All right, let's move into our tips and tricks segment here, where we're going to talk about practical marketing advice that can help your business grow. Today, we're talking about something that may seem pretty obvious, right? But it's still one of the biggest issues we see when working with small businesses. Why every business needs a good website. Now, notice I didn't say a website, I said a good website. Because in today's world, your website is essentially your digital storefront. It's often the first impression someone gets of your business. Another good first impression would be like a business card at a networking event. Okay, so before they call you, before they visit your location, and sometimes even before they read your reviews, they're often checking out your website. Yep. And if your website is outdated, slow, confusing, or hard to use on a phone, people will simply move on to the next option. Here's something we tell our clients all the time over at Deckard Company. Your website should work for you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It should be answering questions, showcasing your services, building trust, and helping turn visitors into customers or clients, even while you're sleeping. Yeah. So, a good website does several important things for a business. And as I read through these, I'm going to scroll a few of our good website designs for you to take a look at. So, here, first, it's going to build credibility. When someone searches for a service and finds your business online, they want to see that you look professional, right? And legitimate. A well designed website with clear information, photos, testimonials, contact details immediately is going to build confidence. Second, your website helps you get found on Google. Search engines rely heavily on websites to understand what your business does and where you are located. When your website is properly optimized with good, relevant content and local information, it can help you appear in search results when people are looking for your services, products, whatever. Third, a good website answers customer questions before they even call you. Things like services offered, price ranges, service areas, business hours, frequently asked questions can all live on your website. This saves time for both you and your customers. Another huge factor today is mobile usability. More than half of all website traffic now comes from smartphones. Yeah. If someone visits your website on their phone and the text is tiny, the buttons don't work, or the pages load slowly, they'll leave within seconds. A good website needs to be fast, mobile friendly, and easy to navigate. And finally, your website is a central hub of all your marketing. Whether you're running social media, Google ads, uh, email campaigns, or posting videos, all of that activity should ultimately point back to your website where they can learn more and they can take action. Think of it this way: social media platforms are like rented land. Your website property you actually own. At the end of the day, a great website doesn't just sit there looking pretty. It should be a powerful business tool that attracts visitors, builds trust, and helps convert those visitors into paying customers or clients. So, if you're a business owner and your website hasn't been updated in 5 or 10 years or ever, or maybe you don't even have one at all, it might be time to take a serious look at that. Because in today's digital world, a strong website isn't just nice to have anymore. It's absolutely essential. Hey, thanks for watching this week's Tips and Tricks. See you at the next one. All right, everyone, welcome back to the show. Today we're diving into a topic that every business owner has heard about, but not everyone fully understands. And what is that? It's branding. So when many small business owners hear the word branding, they often think of a logo, maybe some colors, a business card. But branding is actually much bigger than that. It's the personality of your business, the way people perceive you, and the feeling customers get when they interact with your company online, on social media, or in person. For small businesses, especially strong branding can be the difference between being just another option or becoming the business that people are going to remember and trust. So today we're joined by a branding expert, Barbara DiLisio from Wicky, who's going to help break down what branding really means, why it's so important for small businesses, and how entrepreneurs can start building a brand that truly stands out. So, Barbara, tell us a little about you and your business.
Hi, everyone. I'm Barbara. I co-own Wiki with my husband Mark. We also have a YouTube channel where we do a podcast and videos on web design, branding, and 3D animation. I have been doing this for a long time now. Wiki has been around for 12 years, but I've worked in a lot of different small businesses in the past. And branding is something that I get passionate about, I get excited about. It's something I think that no matter how small or big your business is, you need to pay attention to. And I'm just excited to start talking about it and educate people.
Well, I really truly appreciate you hopping on here and talking about this stuff because this is definitely one service that we here at Deckard Company we don't do. That's because it involves a lot, and
Yes.
um, I just don't have I just don't have it. So that's where people like you, which are branding experts, in my opinion, I'm sure you kind of consider yourself as a branding expert, and seeing all this stuff. And we're actually gonna, because we're on your website right now, and we're looking at it, and we're gonna flip over here because we're looking at your brand strategy. What does it say here over here? Or your brand strategy and design. And what's really cool is the image that you chose for that service that you provide is North River hats, which is
Yeah.
right in our back door here. So
Yes, it is. Isn't that funny how that worked out? But yeah,
I do, yeah.
yeah, North River Hats. She is 15 minutes from where you are in Bradenton. She's in Parish, and she does custom hat and apparel designs. So some really cool, like blinged out versions of hats and jean jackets. She does a lot for like sports teams, cheerleading competitions, stuff like that. But she came to us because she really needed help figuring out branding, and I don't think she realized that's what she needed help with at first. I think she was just like, I need a better website. I need to figure all these things out. What she really needed was help with branding because she was doing everything by herself. she still is doing everything by herself. But now she has a system in place that gets her time back. And that is a lot of what branding can be. It's not just the logo and the type and the colors. That's what everybody thinks it is, but it's really a process for how you do things and how you get in front of the people that are going to want to buy your services. So, part of the strategy with when we worked with Jamie was figuring out a way to get some of that time back and reduce the amount of back and forth that she had to have with clients, reduce the amount of revisions that she had to make on these designs that she was creating, and just make the process a lot smoother. So, that's all part of what branding is, and I think a lot of people just are like, "Oh, branding is just like a logo design," but that's only a small part of it. It's really figuring out the ways to make your business less of a job and more of an asset.
Yeah, I love the way you put that. Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. And we got the privilege of working with her a little bit, and I hope it helped her, because we do social
It
media
did.
management.
She keeps saying how much she loves you, Brian, and she's like, I need to reach out to him again." She's been very busy with things. We were talking a little bit before we got on about how just this past couple weeks I feel like has been really crazy for everyone. Like everyone's been sick and
Yep.
and she's been going through that as well, but she does plan on reaching out to you in the future because she loved the work that you did for her.
Oh, I love that. Okay, yeah, she's
Mhm.
awesome. She is just
Yeah, she's
fantastic.
great.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, so let's get into so I have some really great questions for you, and
Okay.
and I think these questions because I think they're going to be able to sum up for the listeners and the viewers
Mhm.
what branding's all about, right? So if you're ready,
I'm
let's get
ready.
into it. Okay. All right. So, what does branding actually mean for a small business? So, my question is, many small business owners think branding is just a logo or color scheme. How would you explain what branding really is and why it matters beyond visual design?
So kind of like what I just said with Jamie and North River hats, it's not just the visual elements. That's a part of it, but I would say that's a small part of it. Branding really is your reputation and how people perceive your company. So if you go to McDonald's, you have a perception of that brand. If
Right.
you go to a local pizza shop, you have a different perception of that brand. It's all about how people perceive your company. And the visual elements should coincide with that, but it's not just the only portion. And I think a lot of small businesses, especially, get that confused. And they think that because they're not a huge company, they don't really need to worry about all of this stuff. But it truly doesn't matter if you have a small business or if you have a huge corporation. You have to think about these things because people are going to have a perception of you no matter what. First impressions always matter. So, branding can help you make a good first impression. So, it's figuring out how to get in front of those people that you want to come into your business. And it's also figuring out that client process for them. So when they come into the business, how is that experience going to blow them away and be
Right.
awesome? So that's all about branding. So it's things like processes and figuring out customer service and figuring out how you're going to market to people in the future. It's all part of branding.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
And that's what's, I love the part about it's not just your logo, right? And
Right.
the part about it doesn't matter if you're a small mom pop
Mm-mm.
store. It doesn't matter. It does not matter.
Right.
Branding is what it's all about. I love that.
Yeah, it really doesn't. And
Yeah.
I think that a lot of people feel like, "Oh, well, I'm not this big company, so why do I need to worry about all that?" And it's because when you go into a small restaurant, say, and the experience is really bad, you're not going to go back.
Right.
But if you go into a small restaurant and you have an amazing experience because they took the time to craft and figure all that out, you're going to continue to go back and you're going to tell
Yep.
your friends and your family, hey, you should check this place out. So
Yeah.
it really does matter.
Yep. You're going to become that. You're going to be memorable.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay. So, why is branding so important for small businesses trying to stand out in a crowded local market? So, my question to you is this. So, in places like Bradenton, Sarasota, or like from where you are, the
Hmm.
Philadelphia area, um, or any competitive local market, many businesses offer similar services, right? So,
Hmm.
how can strong branding help a small business stand out and be remembered? We kind of just hit on that a little bit, but can you hit on
Yeah,
that
a
a
little
little bit
bit.
more? Yeah.
So in today's day and age, everything is so automated, template driven, and we're all using AI to do everything. Ends up happening when we do that is everybody looks exactly the same.
Right.
Hey, puppy.
Yeah. They're a pain in the butt.
So yeah, everybody's starting to look exactly the same. So if you want to stand out, you have to think about how to be different and do
Right.
things differently. Zig when they zag is what I like to say. Everybody's doing things a certain way. Well, you need to do it a completely different way. And if you do it a completely different way, you're going to get noticed. So I think less templates, less AI generated garbage, more
Yep.
thought, more custom, more what can I showcase about my company that's going to make me stand out from all the other people around there? Yes, yeah, there is 500 pizza shops in Philadelphia. There's 500 different hair salons and massage
Right.
places and whatever it might be. But there's certain ones that pay attention and care about how they're being perceived instead of just throwing up the AI generated website
Right.
or the Square store, and those are the ones that when people go to their website are like, "Oh, this is different. This is interesting. Let me check
Right.
it out more." And
Yep.
I think it's just so important nowadays.
Yeah, I agree on a couple of things. Number one, I love like, especially on your website, you have it listed as AI slop.
Mhm.
Love
That's what it
that.
is.
It is a 100%, right? 100%.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. We don't do the AI slop on our side either because
Mhm.
it was just not good. I mean, maybe
No,
one
it's
day.
it's
I don't
not
know.
good, and
Mm-mm.
it's not going to do you any favors.
Right.
I like to say that you can use AI as a tool, but not a replacement. So there's
Right.
certain things that it's really good at, but there's certain things that you shouldn't use it for. And building your website is one of them.
Right.
Writing your emails and your blogs is another thing. Making videos. Please don't do it for videos. It looks so bad.
I know, right? And we see it all the time. Yeah, we see it all the time. So, Barbara, so what are some common branding mistakes small businesses make when they're first getting started? So, my question here is when someone launches a business, they're often focused on sales and operations. What branding mistakes do you see small businesses make early on that can hurt them later?
I think a big one is not having processes in place for how they do things. So, things like figuring out that client experience. What is it going to be like when somebody walks through your door or emails you wanting to work with you? How is that going to be handled? I think that if you're winging it with every single client, every single project, that's a problem. You need to have a clear process for how things are done in your business. It's going to make your life easier. It's going to make it a lot easier for the client. Everybody's going to be happy. And I don't think a lot of businesses are spending time to figure those processes out. Another thing that I see a lot of, especially recently, is inconsistent messaging. So, like, a really good example of this is like you go to a restaurant, you order something off of the menu thinking it's one price, and then you get the bill and it's a different price because the menu wasn't updated to reflect the new pricing.
Right.
Stuff like that can completely ruin your business because people feel like they got fooled, you know? So
Mhm.
you got to make sure that your messaging is consistent on all platforms. If
Right.
you're a restaurant, update your menus, make sure that the prices reflect what is actually going to be on the bill. If you're any business, you're offering services, make sure that you're still offering those services that you have on your website. And I see
Right.
that this a lot, where people just things are outdated and inconsistent. So that's
Right.
a really big killer. And the third thing I'll say, honestly, is AI. I think that AI is really hurting a lot of people's brands. Um, Everybody wants to hop on this AI trend. I get that it's cool, it can do a lot of things, it can promise a lot of stuff, but the majority of people that I talk to do not want to deal with it. They don't want to talk to an AI chatbot. They want to talk to an actual person. They don't want AI generated videos and images on your social media. When they find out that it's fake, they lose trust in you completely and they'll go somewhere else. So
Yep.
just be careful with it. That's all I have to say. Like, I know people are still gonna use it, but I think that the way that you use it really matters, and I don't think that people are using it correctly, and it's gonna hurt them.
Yeah, because they don't. The way that I see it, because we do a lot of web design and development,
Mhm,
and when you get this, the copy, right? All this copy, and you're
mhm,
looking at it, and you're like,
mhm.
"Do you actually do this stuff?" And they're like, "Oh, well, not really." I'm
Right,
like, "Well, how did you come up with this?" And because I already know. And then they
right.
finally come out, well, I went to
I use
ChatGPT.
ChatGPT.
Yeah. And it's like, well, then you probably should have prompted it a little bit more because this is generic and it's not going to serve
Yeah,
you well. Yeah. So
right.
now the design process is delayed because they're really not ready. So it's so frustrating on that front. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's, one of the reasons why I think working with somebody that is an expert in branding really can help because part of what we do is figure out all of these things for you, figure out your messaging and make sure it doesn't sound like a generic chat GPT prompted response. Um, we figure out your images and work with actual photographers that can provide quality images for you instead of generating weird AI images,
Right? Yeah.
you know?
Well, the best part about what we're talking about right now is rolling right into my next question. So, so how does good branding impact marketing efforts like websites, social media, and advertising? Right. So the question is for businesses investing in websites, social media marketing, and online ads. How does having a strong brand make those marketing efforts more effective? So it's kind of like what we've just been talking about.
Yeah, it helps everything stay cohesive.
Yes.
So, when you have branding guidelines in place and you know what you're doing, it makes a lot of things easier. When you know the tone of how your messaging should feel, then
Yes.
you can create ads and social media posts that have that feeling and that tone.
Right.
If you're like, some fun casual brand, your messaging is obviously should be more casual. But if you're like a financial advisor or a lawyer, you're probably not going to respond to your emails with things like hey or cheers or things that are a little more casual. Like all of these kind of things matter. And when you have all that figured out and in place, it just makes things easier. So when you know like the style of your images, well then you can create images that have that style. When you know the messaging, you can create like I said, copy and posts and all that stuff for your website that has that same feeling. When you know your colors and the type that you're supposed to use, you can make it consistent throughout.
Yep.
That's another thing. If we go back to things that are hurting people, the inconsistencies with the guidelines. If they don't have guidelines in place, they don't know
Right.
what they're doing, and they use a different font for social media posts than they do on their website, and it doesn't look consistent, it doesn't match. So, there's a lot of things that having branding really helps solve.
Mm. Yeah. 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 Consistency.
Mhm.
That's everything that I look for. You know,
Mhm.
especially when I'm bringing on a new client. It's like,
Mhm.
let me see where you're at, and you're like, oh, you're all over the damn board. It's pretty great.
Yeah, some people are, and then, there's some people that aren't, and I think that it just makes your life so much easier when you have a plan in place,
Yeah.
and I think that it's something that a lot of small business owners, again, they don't think that they need it or like they're worthy of it because they're a small company, but treat your company like it's McDonald's or Starbucks or any huge corporation. It doesn't matter how big. It's going to make your life easier and then you'll get to that level.
Yeah, that's the thing, right?
Mhm.
Yep.
Mhm.
So let's go into the next question here because we're kind of rolling
Mhm.
right into it anyway. So if a small business realizes, right, they finally realize that their branding is weak,
Mhm.
or inconsistent, which is exactly what
Mhm.
we're talking about. Where should it start fixing it, right? So the question is, if a business already has a logo, website, social media, but everything feels disconnected, right? What are the first steps they should take to strengthen their brand?
I think that audit your brand.
Yes.
So take a look at all of the components, um, and figure out what is working because there's stuff that is working, and then figure out where there's room for improvement. So one of the services that we offer at Wiki is a brand audit. So we'll take a look at your branding, at your website, your social media, and do just that. Figure out the things that are working well and then what can be improved upon. Because even the biggest, best brands in the world have things that they could improve upon. And that's something that the big brands do. So you treat your business just like you would if it was McDonald's, Starbucks, Target, one of these big brands. Do those things that are going to help you stay cohesive and improve your growth. So, we'll take a look at the messaging and make sure that it's consistent across all platforms. We'll take a look at the visual elements, make sure that they all make sense and that they feel like they should for the right audience. Sometimes things are a little bit off because you started out as one thing, but over the years you grew and changed and offer different things, or maybe are targeting slightly different audience. So
Right.
that's part of the audit is to figure out if the visuals are really connecting with that market. Figure out your marketing. What are the channels that you're using? What is working well? And what are some other things that you might want to consider doing? Because there's a lot of different avenues now, and not everything is going to be the right fit.
Right.
You might be doing social media campaigns and they're not really doing a ton for you. There might be a better alternative like email marketing or Google ads or something else. Um, so it's all that. Just taking an audit of what you have going on now, I think can help you plan for better branding in the future and really help accelerate your growth.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. And I know that you really wanted to talk about this brand audit. So if you have anything else that you want to talk about, because I can
So
tell you,
we
we don't do that here at Deckard Company. So anybody that
Mhm,
we would get that would require that service, we're going to be
mhm.
sending them to you.
So you can get it on our website shop.wikidesign.com, and if you put in the code audit 20, you'll get $20 off.
That's awesome.
So,
Yeah,
yeah.
very
So,
nice, very nice.
podcast listeners get $20 off brand audit. And I think, yeah, it really can help you figure out all of those elements that you might not be realizing are problems, but when somebody comes in with a pair of fresh eyes, they
Yeah.
can spot any mistakes, spot ways that you can improve.
Yeah, and that's sometimes the best thing is fresh eyes,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah.
Uh, yeah,
Yeah, because 'cause you're
absolutely.
so in it, so sometimes, like, you can't see the forest through the trees,
Yep. Yep.
and when somebody else comes in and is like, "Oh, have you ever thought about doing X, Y, and Z?" And they're like, "No, I never did." And then it really helps.
Yep. Absolutely. No, I love that. Yeah. And I
Mhm.
think everybody should go through a brand audit, every
Mhm.
once in a while.
Yeah, I think it's important.
Mhm.
Even if
Yeah.
you're doing well,
Mhm.
even if things are going well for you, you're getting good sales, you're getting leads, still think that it can be beneficial because there's things that we can uncover that will help you save time or help you grow even more.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I will be placing that link, by the way, and of course in our YouTube channel with this video. But I'm also, when I share it to my community, I'll make
Mhm.
sure that I include it there. So hopefully
Cool.
somebody takes you up on that offer. That'd be great.
Yeah.
All right. So as we wrap up here, I'd love to tie branding into something many businesses are thinking about today. And what is that? It's their online presence. So how important is it for a business's branding to stay consistent across things like their website, social media, videos, digital marketing, right? And what happens when those pieces don't align with the brand the business is trying to build? So
Mhm.
we've talked about all the stuff that could possibly happen, right?
Mhm.
So branding really is the foundation of everything in marketing. Once your brand is clear,
Mhm.
everything else, your website, social media, videos, and the content starts working together to tell the same story. And I think consistency, that's what it's all about.
Mhm.
All
I
right.
agree.
Well, yeah, love that. All right, cool. So if you have
I
anything else to
totally
add, yeah, I love that.
um I think that when it comes to branding, um you don't necessarily need to have a huge budget. I think that's another misconception
Right.
about a misconception that small business owners have about branding is that, oh, this is something that's going to cost me hundreds of thousands of dollars and I just don't have that. Um it doesn't have to. It You can do a lot of this planning yourself if you don't have a huge budget to
Right.
invest in somebody to help you with branding. It's figuring out that client experience. It's coming up with a process for how you do things. It's training your employees so that they know how to do things and how things should be done. Um all of that stuff is stuff that you don't necessarily need to spend any money on. Um, a branding person can definitely help you with all of that, but if you don't have the budget, it's really not an excuse not to take it seriously. So sit down, figure it out, and then when you do have the budget, again, you can have somebody come in with a pair of fresh eyes and
Mhm.
figure out maybe some inconsistencies and stuff. But
Right.
I think that people just kind of put it to the side because they don't think that they can afford it. They think they can get by without it, but it's really something that you should consider no matter what stage of business you're in.
Yep. And my opinion is, and this is my opinion, is that you should have, like yourself, a branding expert or your branding completed before you reach out to that web designer or developer and say, I need a
Yes.
website, right?
Yes, it's definitely part of the whole package. You can't
Mhm.
have a website if you don't have your branding in place because what are you going to put on the website?
Yep.
You need to figure all of that out. So
Yep.
if you if you don't, you're just gonna have a website that's doing nothing for your business. Um,
Correct.
so when we do our projects, if we have a website design, we always start with the branding first.
Yep.
We figure those elements out because that will, moving forward, will determine the website, the social media, the marketing materials. So you have to figure it out before you get started on all those other elements.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, because I
Mhm.
can't tell you how many times, and I don't do it much nowadays because, back in the early days, it's like I'll just take them. Need the money. Let's get things going. Got to build this business. Can't tell you how many times that I've designed a website with the person had nothing, no logo, no color scheme,
Mhm.
no nothing. And I'm
Mhm.
like, well, what colors do you like? That you go down the
Mhm.
question list and they're like, well, I really don't know. And
Right.
you're just like, oh, this is going to be a rough one. And they are. They're terrible,
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have to.
Yeah, because they don't have anything figured out. And
Mhm.
one of the things that we've always done from the beginning is we don't work on websites unless we have content. So content includes those branding elements, your photos, your copy. If we don't have that, we're not working because there's nothing to work on. So, it is a very important thing. And I think that some people just don't understand how the process works, and that's okay. That's why we do podcasts like this to educate people
Right.
as to how it should go. Branding comes first. We figure all of that out, and then we can plan your website so it's effective.
Yes. See,
Hmm.
that's perfect. Yep, that's perfect. Yeah, and I can tell you that we are definitely in the camp of we don't do anything until we've got everything now. So
Right. Yeah.
yeah, and since I implemented that, I think like when I talked to you and Mark, I don't know when we really started talking. That was your big thing was we don't start it until then. I'm like, no, that's probably a really good idea, and that's probably when I
Yeah.
started implementing that. It's like, nope, not going to start it until I have all your stuff.
Hmm.
So, and since I've done that, I haven't lost any more hair. It's been kind of nice. Now I shaved it all. I haven't lost it. All right. Well, Barbara,
Yeah.
this was. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, that's fine. I was just gonna say it does make the process so much easier, and you create a better product in the
Yes.
end.
You do. You really do. And when everybody's life's better, by the end of the project, you have a happy designer developer, but then you also have a very happy client
Hmm.
because they've received exactly what it is they wanted.
Right.
So I love that. Yeah, it's very cool. Well, thank you so much, Barbara, for joining me today for this
Thank you
little.
for having me.
Yeah, I loved it. Yep. So, like I said, if anybody needs any branding help, contact that woman right there. All the stuff will be in the description. Their link to their website. And until then, you all do have a beautiful rest of your day and always behave.